Hey, we should be live. Microphone looks good. Had a little bit of an issue with it yesterday, so glad to see it didn't start acting up again. Alright, so we are back and we are still working on this guy. And we will be working on him for quite a while, because, my god, we need 215 cuts of these 275 cards. There's so much on this list that is not gonna make it. Yeah, I feel like we're still in the stage where I just keep looking at the cards and going, yeah, that's actually probably not making it. That's probably not making it. That can probably go. Alright. I exile enough of our opponent's creatures that I probably don't need Grim Feast. Like, we have replacement effects that are stopping them from going to the graveyards on one or two cards, in addition to being able to exile them from graveyards for value. Typically life gain, like on Scavenging Ooze. Probably cut Grim Feast. Tutor, Peacekeeper, Soul Warden, Survival, Wood Elves, Crawl Space, Hermit, Karmic Guide, No Mercy, Reclamation, Granger, Replenish, Noble Purpose. Noble Purpose is contingent on my creatures dealing damage, and I'm not planning on attacking that much. I don't have any effect damage from them, so... I'm probably gonna wind up cutting it, but I'm not ready to cut that one yet. So equal treatment still doesn't save my creatures from like a blasphemous act or something. Like, all my guys are already tiny, so they're gonna die to that anyway. So its primary function is that it gets around unpreventable damage dealt to me, but it's also still only damage. It doesn't care about life loss at all. Yeah, we can probably cut it then. It's a neat card and something that would go in a deck like this, where it wouldn't go in most other decks, but... we have like 20 other cards that are doing similar things to this, and Graveborn Muse. Like, we don't have any other zombies, I don't think. I think we might have one or two. If we cut this and I look for zombies, how many are left in the deck? The Pontiff of Blight? It's literally the Pontiff of Blight. Okay, so yeah, Graveborn Muse is just straight up a Phyrexian Arena for 4 mana with a 3/3 body attached to it, and we have a bunch of other things like that going on, so I don't think we need specifically her in the deck. I like Righteous Cause, but it is 5 mana. I think we have other cards similar to that, but they're also kind of expensive, like the Kitsune. So maybe we cut the Kitsune. We only have one other Fox in the deck, and that one we're trying to flip into an enchantment anyway, and that's Runetail there. So... Alright, if we put in Fox, those should be the only two. Yep. So it's a 6 mana 5/6 that when a creature attacks, I may gain 1 life. Like, I don't think we need both. I'm not even sure we need either. I do like the idea of gaining life whenever our opponents attack each other, too. Like, it doesn't just have to be them attacking me. So that's kind of neat, but... Word of Calling, Dark Confidant, Farseek, Privileged Position. I probably don't need Privileged Position, and I have a couple other cards. Like, we have Sigarda. Like the newest Sigarda from Aftermath, which gives most of my stuff hexproof anyway. So yeah, we can probably cut privilege position. I think we can cut Storm Herd. Given how I want to win the games, I feel like this thing will just randomly kill people very, very quickly. Like, they get one turn cycle because I don't have a way to give them haste, but I can just gain so much life from this being cast to begin with, and it um, gives me like if I'm at the 111 plus life that I can very reasonably gain with this deck, this is just going to end the game if nobody has a Wrath for one turn cycle. Like, I'm going to be able to kill 4 different opponents with the number of Pegasus tokens I have with no extra buffs or anything. So, also it's a 10 mana spell in the meantime, so by the time we even get to the part where we're casting that, we should have the game pretty handily locked up, I feel like. We probably don't need Pull from Eternity and Rift Sweeper. We can use one or the other, and Rift Sweeper puts the card into my deck, where Pull from Eternity puts it into my graveyard, which is still helpful, but not as helpful. So, also I can blink the Rift Sweeper with my other effects to gain extra cards back into the deck from exile, so it is only the one card now, though, so if that one gets exiled, nothing else can get anything back from exile, but I guess that's going to be fine. Like, we're not going to have room for every niche card in every situation, so I'm going to have to cut some stuff. I have so many of my own good artifacts and enchantments, I kind of want to cut Fracturing Gust. The only thing I like about this one is it gives me a way to kill all artifacts and enchantments and put them into my graveyard, where I can get mine back. Whereas my other Wraths exile everything, so yeah, like there's a part of me that wonders if I don't want Fracturing Gust so that I have a way to Wrath artifacts and enchantments so that they will be things I can recycle later on. I don't sack my own permanents for value, so we don't need the Archon, since it only triggers when it dies. If it triggered when it left play, I would run it because then it's a 5-drop that I can blink later on. But we need to make cuts, and that's something that isn't actually super doing the thing I need it to do, so I wonder if we cut the Infinite Gear and just have... That would leave us with Bow of Nylea. Do we have another thing? We have the Mistveil Plains, I think, to put cards back into our deck from our graveyard, but that's 1 per turn, or 1 per turn cycle. So maybe not. Malera can stay for now, but she's on the cusp because she just randomly hoses Poison Matters decks and -1/-1 counters, which I have things like Kitchen Fink, so that becomes a source of massive life gain. Although, again, I don't have ways to sacrifice my own creatures for value, so we have like 1 or 2 cards that can do it, like we have the Commissar, and I feel like we have like maybe 2 others at most. Sorcerer. I do like how a lot of our creatures are randomly just 2 power or less naturally, so they all get underneath things like the Battle of Bywater. Dagon Bishop, Decked in Stone, Eerie Interlude. We probably don't need all of the Eerie Interlude variants, so I'm gonna have to figure out which ones I want. The Ghostway, which I think I glossed over, we can probably cut if I pop back up here to where it was. It was forever ago. Yeah, there it is. We can probably get rid of this one since it has to be all of my creatures, and we have a couple variants that are any number of my creatures or all of my non-token creatures, so that way I don't have to lose all the tokens I'm making. So we go back to Eerie. Go Eerie Interlude. um, Sorry, the consoles is giving me life when opponents' things enter, and it stops their haste creatures from being relevant. Dusk Till Dawn is another wrath that doesn't hit my little guys. I think I'm going to be hard pressed to protect this Gideon. So the whole I can't lose the game while I have Gideon out is primarily only helping with static effect, or not static effects, things that one shot win the game if they resolve. So that way that situation never occurs. It's close with Gideon. I'm going to leave him on the list, but I feel like I'm going to wind up cutting him eventually. I probably don't need Vona. Like, she's vulnerable to all of my wraths. I can very easily get the 7 life, but I can't even use it on other players' turns. So it means I have to do it on my main phase before I know if I'm actually going to desperately need to use her, and I can't use her on like a haste thing or a thing that suddenly comes down and like, okay, if this stays in play, my opponent's other things are amazing and I just die to them. So we can probably cut Lyra. We might cut Shalai because she's too close to a win con with all the token makers I have. Helm of the Host is funny, but probably don't need that one. It's better than some of the other once per turn token makers, but it's also way more expensive and way more vulnerable to instant speed removal. And it's not like I have any of the doubling season effects in this deck. Yeah, the token makers are more to make a whole bunch of tokens for my comes into play, like creature comes into play, I gain life effects than they are for, and to make blockers and to make fodder for our various things, because we need to be able to generate more creatures than we have cards, basically, if we're going to gain this much life. Speaking of which, like, none of the token makers make enchantment creatures, so we do have a ton of enchantments, but we're going to wind up cutting a lot of them to make room. So I think the Nexus Wardens can go. We need so many cuts that I just have to keep cutting things that are, like, on the cusp. Because I'm just not going to have room for them. Yeah, I probably don't need Kaya the Inexorable. I have a bunch of other exile effects, and some of them are sorcery speed. So Kaya is just okay. I'm hesitant to cut any of the ones that at end of turn, each turn I get a token creature if I gained X life, because all of the life gain is well within reason of what this deck is going to produce anyway. So I am a little worried about winning the game because I make like an army of 4/4 angels and 3/3 birds and whatnot, but I don't think I can afford to cut those because they are a constant stream of creatures. And while some players will definitely lose to an army of 4/4 flying angel tokens and 3/3 birds that jump my other creatures, most decks won't. So, also, a lot of these things are themselves creatures and therefore die to opponents' removal spells anyway. So, if I can gain a ton of life off of them coming into play in the first place, I feel like that's probably worth it. And hopefully we can get them back later with some of our cards. Circle, Book of Exalted Deeds. Book is very tempting because we have so many angels and some of them are hard to get rid of. Like, even, like, the ideal is to put it on something like, what's its name? The Changeling Land. Mutavault. Wow. Put it on like a Mutavault or something, so that way your opponents need to have like a Wasteland or a Strip Mine or something to kill it. But just putting it on Avacyn couldn't do a lot for a while. Like, I already can't lose the game with Avacyn in play, and she's hard to kill. So, not super hard to kill. She's still vulnerable to bounce and exile effects, but you know what I mean. Like, I still have her against most removal spells and wrath effects, so they have to actually find one of their specific cards that get rid of her, and then they need to use it on her, when they're about to win the game or would otherwise lose the game anyway. So they usually want to wait until they need her gone. Because if they kill her ahead of time, then I know I'm not protected anymore and I make different decisions, so. Meat Hook is questionable because it always kills all of my little guys. It is another, like, it's a Wrath effect that I can cast when I need to, and then it's going to give me life when their creatures die, so it's got that going on for it too. Yeah, that one might be close. Maybe I have enough effects like the Markov Purifier where I don't need it specifically, since it's only my end of turn. Like, I have the one enchantment where I can pay to draw a card when I gain life that's making 1/1 lifelink dudes, and isn't limited to once per turn, so. Rabble Rouser. Or Rabble Rousing, rather. Highest Core. I guess I keep Elias if I'm going to cut ones that only gain me life when my creatures come into play or die. Like, I keep Elias then because it has an extra thing that makes it like, it's more that he's a 2/2 death touch than that he's making the opponents lose life for their things dying. But yeah, it might be a thing that goes just because at this point. Machines, Archangel Elspeth. Like, Elspeth's ultimate is pretty strong in this deck, but she's slow to build to it. Like, it takes 2 full turn cycles of her plussing. Like, I play her, I plus her, we get back to me, I plus her, and then on the next turn after that, I can ultimate her, and everybody can see it coming. So even though I have a lot of cheap creatures, I don't think I need her. How many elves and how many elementals do I have? It says 14. Deep Forest Hermit, Tireless Provisioner, Asterion, Wood Elves, Deranged Hermit, Granger, Essence Warden, Rift Sweeper, Oracle, Alchemist is an elf, Trellisera is an elf, and Nisa. Alright. Make sure we're only getting the elementals. 7 elementals. Fenlurker, Vesperlark, Solitude, Dread, Revelark, Avenger. So 6 elementals in the deck. Alright, Nisa can stay for right now, but we'll have to see. Corn grows exponentially, but it's slow to start. How many humans did we have altogether? Might want to cut this one. 132. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. They are all, like, all of these humans are actually humans and not, like, cards that care about humans outside of. Yeah, okay. Maybe I do have so many humans. Gideon becomes a human. Which I've done. Raven Man. So yeah, it's Sigarda, and then this thing makes a 1/1 human when it enters, so. Alright. Maybe we keep the Horn of Gondor then for now. We're keeping Pippin, Battle of Bywater, the One Ring. One Ring is insane in this deck. I have so many ways to exile artifacts, and I can just draw so many extra cards off of this thing. Grim Tutor, Acidic Slime, Cultivate, Dark Tutelage, Elixir, Sarah Ascendant, Jade Mage, Sun Titan, Ranger's Path, Faith Mender. I like all of these cards. London Angel is another one of them. Make a token if I gain enough life. I just love Strength of the Pride 0. Like, I can just cast him and immediately exile all of my opponent's creatures and artifacts, and that's just wonderful to me in this deck. So he 1,000,000% makes it in. Also, his +1 is not terrible in this deck. I can gain a ton of life off of that if we're in a good board state and I want to play him. But mostly it's just going to be for that, like, plague winding my opponent's entire, like, all the opponent's entire creature base and their artifacts for 4 mana just seems so ridiculous. Idol's a really good card advantage machine in this deck. Like, most of my things are cheap. And being able to cast one of them every turn after they've all died just seems way, way too good. You have so many enchantments, I feel like I need to keep Sithis in here. Maybe we cut the Tireless Provisioner. It's okay. Yeah, I love almost every single card we have left on this list still. And that's way, way, way too many cards. I wonder if Mystic Barrier is better or worse than Silent Arbiter or Crawl Space. I feel like I could get rid of the Silent Arbiter maybe and keep the Barrier and the Crawl Space because they affect who can attack me, not necessarily who can attack everybody else. I mean, the Barrier does too, but I'm more concerned about me not being able to be attacked for a lot of damage than stopping opponents from attacking each other. Like, I don't care if they murder each other while they're avoiding me because I'm just dirtling the whole time and gaining tons of life. Protection, Judgment, Flawless Maneuver, Obscuring Haze, Coven, Connections. Like, all of these cards are so good in this deck. part of me wants to cut Farmer Cotton. Like, it's twice X tokens, half of them being halflings, the other half being food. Which is just so many tokens. And then Chatterfang makes that many squirrels. And then Peregrine adds another food token to that, and so on in that manner. There's also a small temptation while I'm trying to cut stuff, if I'm going to be making this many food tokens, to add in, what's his name? The Academy Manufacturer. Because I do make a ton of food and treasure tokens in this deck, so making clues also, and the other one that I'm not making at any given point in time, just seems really good. Especially if I have Peregrine Took, which means all of my other tokens will make a food, treasure, and clue every time while he's out. Yeah, all of these cards now are officially good in the deck, and it's a matter of picking which ones I don't want. Like, maybe I don't need Rodolph because he's 6 mana to cast and 2 to activate, so I need 8 mana the turn that I cast him in order to pull that off. I'm probably not going to need Ratchet, if I'm being honest. We can cut him. Okay, that's 17. So he's 60, 58. Oh, good. If we cut 200 more cards, we'll be done. Okay. Start at the bottom and work our way up. Yeah, I don't need the Bloodsucker. It's fine, but not essential. Conjurer is probably one of the best ones if I'm the only one gaining life off of its trigger, because I also have the ability to flicker one of my other creatures for 5 mana. I really like Preston, but we might have to cut him because I don't know how many flickers exactly I'm gonna have. And if I'm not flickering things, he does nothing. When I do flicker, he's exponentially better, because now I'm getting twice as many comes into play triggers. Okay, it's multiplicative, not exponential, but still. He's adding a significant amount with that multiplier. So the Tallyman only works when a creature dies. If a creature died on my turn, and if 7 creatures died on my turn. So I guess we can cut that. The Demon functions in this deck, but it's more about slowly making the opponents lose the game than it is about keeping me alive. I do like the idea that I'm getting a token for every opponent I have during my end step, but we need infinite cuts, so things that aren't quite on point really need to go. Might not need Smuggler's Share. Might not need the Master of Ceremonies. I do like it because a lot of our things are just going to work out well, like, no matter what they pick. But we don't have room for everything. We don't have room for almost any of these. I want to be dealt the damage, so that way it triggers all of my other stuff that punishes players. So unless I wind up cutting all of the No Mercy effects, I don't want Obscuring Haze, so I probably also don't want the Kami of False Hope or the Spore Frog then. I mean, it's nice to have if the damage is going to be lethal to Fog for the one turn, but Dire Hours, Mystic Barrier, Darksteel Mutation, Martyr's Bond, Soul Snare, Scavenging Ooze, Arcane Signet, Gazelle, Contraband. Probably don't need the Tireless Provisioner. It does kind of give me life when I play lands. It just, I need to spend mana to actually gain that life later on, so. Also, it is a 3 mana 3/2 and therefore vulnerable to my Wrath effects. So if it's going to do that, it probably needs to be. It is a 3 CMC or less, so it works with things like Idol of Endurance, though, and it is a. Oh, it's an elf, not a human. So it's an elf for Issa, but. Okay, Perilous Vault. Faith Mender, Ranger's Path, Jade Mage, Sun Titan. Maybe we don't need the Jade Mage. I had it in here because it's a mana sink that can keep making me tokens. But I have things like that in the Recruit the Worthy. So. Also, if I need another card like this, I probably should look into the one from Future Sight that ruined limited games, basically. I'm blanking super hard on the name of it. If you've ever seen the card, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the one with buyback and convoke that makes 1/1s. So eventually you make enough 1/1s that you can tap all the 1/1s to pay the buyback cost, and then it just gets exponentially worse from that point forward. Yeah, when you can cast the spell for free, in addition to having been able to cast it for spending the mana on it by tapping all the creatures that it's made. It was a huge deal in Future Sight Limited because it was a common, and if you had it and your opponent didn't, you tended to win the game. Like, it was that ridiculous of a card. And it's bothering me that I can't remember its name now. Righteous Fury, The One Ring, Battle for Bywater, Peregrine Took, Reprieve. I suppose we don't actually need Nisa. Like, the card she's getting is going to my hand, not to play. So it's not like she's circumventing the high casting cost on some of those elementals we have. Hey. Drop Nisa then. I like the Puppeteer because it's gaining me 2 life a turn for drawing cards. And it gets back other cheap creatures that I have when they die. But we have a bunch of other stuff that can get back my creatures, and don't think I ultimately need it. Like, Sheoldred can stay. Sheoldred gaining me 2 life whenever I draw a card. I don't care about the opponent losing life, but that's not nothing, so. Massacre, Sigarda's Blessing, Lysa. I can probably cut the Priest of Ancient Lore. Like, I already have the other one from New Capenna, and while there are times where flying is going to be a downside, most of the time it's an upside, so. Harbinger, Righteous Valkyrie. Have a lot of angels and clerics. But we still might wind up cutting her only because I don't have enough. Also, giving all of my stuff +2/+2, yeah. That actually puts my things back within range of dying to my own removal spells. And I'm not trying to kill players by attacking them, so the buff is actually a detriment. Citadel, Casualties of War. Casualties we're keeping. Command the Dread Horde. I probably don't need the aristocrats ones, the ones where my creatures die and my opponents lose life and I gain life. Like, that's not what the deck is about. And I need to make room, so we can probably get rid of them. I don't have a way to sack the Oathsworn Vampire for value for the most part. I have like a couple cards that do that. So I don't think we need it. Like, we can always cast it from the graveyard. I have to see. It's close, though. And a lot of these things are going to go. Campbell can stay for right now. Bishop, Anguished Unmaking. One thing I like about Campbell is he's almost definitely going to gain me 2 life before he dies, just from the spell that's killing him. We can get rid of Cutthroat now. Do we need the retreats? They both have landfall gain life functionally on them, with some minor other upside. But that might be too weak even with that benefit. Like, I don't care about the 1/1 counters on my guys for the most part for the green one. Death Touch is only relevant if I'm blocking with the black one and I want to crack a fetch land or something. I suppose we can get rid of both of those. We still have Courser of Crufix to gain us life when we play land, so we still do have landfall gain life in the deck. I'm not really attacking our opponents, so the whip giving lifelink. The whip gives lifelink, and if I have ways to blink my creatures, I can use the whip to basically resurrect my creature and then blink it so that I get to keep it. That might not be good enough, though. Yeah, it might not actually be good enough. Got the Whip of Erebos. Illuminate's super expensive, but if we ever start blinking him, we just get to exile so many creatures that it's kind of too good, I think. Can probably cut Blind Obedience. The other one's gaining me life automatically for the opponents doing stuff. This one I have to pay for. And only gains me 1 life per spell I'm casting, so I think the Authority of the Consuls is slightly better at that point. The only benefit to this one is that the artifacts also enter tapped, so mana rocks are less impressive. I don't need this Sigarda. It's good against certain decks, but we don't have room for it, I don't think. Get rid of the Blood Artist. 19, can we find one more card, and then I can go up top and deduct 20 from the list? Be Terrell, not Tayo. Identity this. Certainty, Path to Exile, Ranger Yos. Woodfall, Pollute Bonds. The Cauldron only works if I have Malera or Solemnity out. I don't think I need this particular 2-card combo. I have a lot of things that exile or phase out my creatures to dodge mass removal. So this one has to be in play, and then they just don't cast it, or they cast it because they need to kill somebody else's things. So I just managed to save my guys. At that point, it's just as good to have any of the other ones, because then I get to wait until they've committed to save all my guys. That would get saved anyway, because this isn't protecting any of the tokens either. So even if it's one of the exile all my stuff and bring it back later, still not doing a good enough job. Sweeper, Yamaha, Dryad. The Dryad's probably good enough. So what is it? It's 21 now. Like, she's another 3-mana Rampant Growth that gets a Forest, so she's very similar to the Wood Elves. Very similar to Wood Elves, and I am ramping with land. Yeah, we can probably still cut her. It's 21. Let's pop up here, so down to 237. This is such a massive thing to have to go through. Like, eventually we'll get it down a bit where I can start going, okay, here's all of my card advantage, here's all of my removal, and start cutting things from those sub types. But right now there's so many cards in those categories. But I'm not really cutting any given card from any of those categories because I don't know which ones I want to keep and which ones I want to get rid of, so. Hey, I guess it's time to do the removal thing. See what removal spells I have. Swords. Ashes. I feel like I need to do the artifact and enchantment on, like, either or only, or the non-creature one only separately. Like, right now I'm just going to focus on the gets rid of a creature or something else. Like, it has to be able to get rid of a creature right now. If it gets rid of anything else that's more gravy for it, then it needs to be in the other categories. Not, like, jumping over anything. I'm forgetting its removal, right? Stopped at Withering Boom. Yep, okay. Charmic, Karmic Guide. No Mercy is fulfilling. It kills creatures, but I don't have any control over if and when it does, so. That's more about making the game drag on because everything that hits me is dying unless it gains indestructible first. Or the enchantment is destroyed. Crucible, Ewit, Silent Arbiter, Top, Kami, Ichiko, Farseek, Leyline, Proc, Grace, Mangara, Return to Dust, Red, Fracturing, Primus, Death Greeter, Ranger, Lapse, Path to Exile. Oops. Oracle, Avenger, Awakening, Ulamog, Elspeth. Is not in here to kill creatures, she's in here to gain life and make me tokens. If she kills things, good for her. Karn, on the other hand, is here to exile stuff. Talisman, Shattered Angel, Mentor, Evermore, Avacyn, Closet. Illuminate is in here to exile creatures. Pontiff, Teysa, Bow. Elspeth is a Wrath for high power creatures, and she gets to do it when she comes down, so I guess she is creature removal at this point. Step, Utter End is removal. 8 now. Beyond. I mean, she is in here because she kills stuff. So, Wish I'm Making. Stone. Authority, Campbell, Harmonicon, Intervention. Dust Till Dawn is a Wrath. Gideon, Excavator, Razaketh, Solemnity, Ashes, Landing, Settle. Let Prophet, July, Trophy. Dawn, March, Smothering Tithe, Citadel, Casualties. Venge, Daxos, Breach, Ultimatum, Broodmoth, Lurus, Nethroy, Elixir, Witherbloom, Honor Troll, Mortality Spears removal. Last Guardian, Innkeeper, Swarming, Garda. Heat Hook is removal. Well is removal. 18 now. Bias, Knight, Sholdred, Terrasunder. $19. To Ashes. Sentinel, Norn, Sigarda, Horn, Lotho, Took, Breve, Battle of Bywarders, a Wrath. 21 of 24. Fury. Acidic Slime can't hit creatures. Faith Mentor, Angelic Accord, Perilous Vault. Alright, so we're up to a Johnny, but we're almost out of room, so. A creature removal. Oh man, Swords is hiding off the bottom of the screen. Alright. Oops. Ashes, that brings up Swords underneath it. And Withering Boon, Path, Liberated, 8, Sun's Champion, End, Highly, English Unmaking, Stone, Dawn, the Wreckage, Trophy, Casualties of War, Mortality Spear, Book Massacre, Farewell, Terra Sunder, Legion's Ashes, Battle of Bywater, Fury, Perilous Vault, alright, I didn't actually grab the Ajani. That would fill it up. I was already worried about things getting cut off at the bottom like Swords was. Vitality, Bishop of Wings, Fenlurker, Idol, Recruiter, Deep Forest, Ranger, Recruit, Winds of Abandon is a Wrath, or a Path pending. Solitude is removable. I skipped over Exile from freaking Alliances, didn't I? Alright, we'll have to go back and grab it. Contraband Livestock, Scavenging Ooze, Soul Snare. Mutation is meant to be removal in this deck. It stops the thing from having its effect and functionally kills it. Same for Song of the Dryads. Karlov is in here because he can kill things. This is Judgment. Grand Crescendo, Smuggler's Share, Concealment, Excise the Imperfect. Armor Cotton, Celestine, the Commissar, Emil, Witch of the Moors. She's more in here because I get my creatures back, and she makes the opponents sacrifice creatures. Like, I don't need her as removal. Yeah, let's go grab the actual spell Exile from up here. Yeah, there it is. Pop down here. Up. No. Withering Boon is Mirage, so Exile is there. Okay, scroll all the way down. Here to Ajani, and we go Ajani. Winds. Solitude. Contraband. Soul Snare. Mutations. Dire Hours, Song of the Dryads, Karlov, Judgment. Excise. That's it? Okay. Alright, so we did that part of the list. This is the first hour. So I'm going to keep working on this, but we're going to split up the VOD, so just give me a moment here.